So today we're going to be looking at how we can maintain space better between the body and the ball as we move through backswing. Very often I'll see, not just with amateurs, but also elite players that are struggling with their ball contact, they'll lose room between the body and the ball. A visual that very much displays this movement pattern is the head early in the swing moving closer to the ball. So it's obviously not just the head moving closer to the ball, but a very easy visual to pick out. Today I'm going to give you a few exercises and drills to play around with to help you with that movement pattern and help you maintain your space. So before we move into the main content of the video today, I want to thank you once again for watching. I hope you find a few pieces here to help you with your game. If you enjoyed the video and you haven't subscribed, please remember to do so. Okay, so today we're looking at how a player could maintain space better through their backswing. And if you keep in mind with good ball strikers, what we often see is with a focus on the pelvis here, from address to impact, they actually create space. So the pelvis is actually slightly further away from the ball at impact than it is at address. The visual that I explained in the introduction that we often see with a number of players is through backswing, the head moving closer to the ball. So when we're losing that space early in the swing, it just makes it more challenging to get into that impact position that I was discussing just then. So that's going to be the focus for today. That's the main visual. Now, when a player's head is moving closer to the ball in the backswing there, so by here I want to reference, this is the phase from, say, takeaway to hands around hip high. When they're losing space there, the head's moving close to the ball. It's obviously not just the head that's moving close to the ball. The head just stands out the most because it's a distal segment. It's clearer to see the head moving close to the ball than the rib cage and the pelvis, although often the rib cage and pelvis are also losing room. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all aware of that. When we see the head moving a little bit closer to the ball, it's very often not just the head that's losing space. And now to get into the movement pattern in a little bit more detail, often when I see a player losing that space, it really goes back to how they're set up, because a common movement sequence in the start when they go to take the club back and they lose space is the lower body being very active very early in the swing. And often when you see the lower body quite active, it goes back to a player not being set up too well, and there's a little bit of restriction there, or maybe even their concept of takeaway. So today we're going to put a focus on setting up well and then look at how we can move away in a better sequence to help us to keep our room between the body and the ball. And again, the head is going to be a good reference point there when you're looking down the line. Okay, so objective today, can we get from setup to hands hip high, maintaining our space through a good setup position and good takeaway sequence? Okay, so for today, I want to start off with good setup position, and we're going to put our focus on good position and just good standing posture through the spine, because if we want to rotate well, we want to make sure we're stood in a way that really just opens up the options to rotate. So for a lot of players, they can get quite compressed in a number of different ways in their setup. So what I would like you to do, if you feel as though you'd want to explore some of these movement patterns to help with keeping space, is just take your thumbs and put them under your armpits there and feel as though you're lifting your rib cage up off your pelvis. So we're just creating some nice length there through the spine. While you're doing that, you can have a sense of the distance between the top of your head and your tailbone almost moving away from each other. So you're going to have a sense of just feeling as though you're maybe just 1 inch taller than you would normally stand. So you're creating some nice length there through the spine. While I'm doing this, I'm making sure that I'm not extending through the spine to try and create that length, simply lifting the rib cage up, taking some nice deep breaths just to relax into that position there. So once we've got a nice long spine sense there, I want you to take your arms and just wrap them around your body, just lightly there. The reason I'm doing that is it's going to really accommodate a good rib cage position for how we'd want to move into backswing. So we're going to wrap our arms around the body, nice long spine, and then we're going to make a good hip hinge into our start position. And then from there, taking the trail hand, putting it on your tummy, lead hand on your trail shoulder, we're going to guide the trail shoulder around. We're going to be very aware of our visual here. It should give you a sense of your eyes moving further away from the ball. Often when you lose space there, you're going to have a sense of the ball moving closer to your eyes. Okay, so once again, nice and long through the spine, nice hook position, into nice good hip hinge, into your setup posture, trail hand on your tummy, lead hand on your shoulder, and we're making sure the rotation when we do this is coming from the top rather than being overactive through the legs in that early part of the golf swing. So we're going into setup position here, trail hand on your tummy, lead hand on your trail shoulder, and then making sure the rotation starts at the top of your body or base of your neck, we could say. We're going to guide the trail shoulder around, and it should have a sense of how the upper body is slowly rotating from one vertebrae down to the other, to then the lower body eventually moving later in the golf swing. And as I mentioned, that visual of the ball can be extremely helpful, a sense of the eyes moving just slightly further away from the ball. So that's the body feel we're going to go with there. That's the awareness we're going to build. And often this is a great one to do in the doorway as well, so you'd have some immediate feedback there. So we're working on the standing posture and the sequence of movement through the body in the takeaway. So it's going to be very, very important to partner this with a nice takeaway sequence with the club as well. So what we're going to couple with that is, from a good setup position, we're simply going to allow the club head to move past the hands to move past the elbow, and then from there get a sense, moving to hands hip high, of that movement exercise we were going through just there of how we want the body to move. Okay, so if I set up now, get that nice long spine feel, the same rib cage feel as when I was doing the hug, and now I'm going to go club past the hands past the elbow, and I'm already at hip high there. Much easier to get to that position there where I maintain the space. So I think that's a almost very achievable starting point for a lot of players that lose the room between the head and the ball as they move into backswing. Let's just get the hands to hip high on the backswing there without losing the room, and then from there simply I like to then let's just use the visual of keeping the eyes the same distance from the ball. For a lot of players, going to feel a lot further away. So when training this, it's going to be extremely helpful if you're doing longer. When you do get to longer swings, it's going to be extremely helpful to be very clear on what your impact position is going to feel like. Okay, so just making some rehearsals from the top of the backswing with the right visual you want, with the space between the ball and the eyes, moving into impact there. Because for a lot of players, what really holds them back is just not connecting how to move from, let's say, an improved takeaway or improved backswing into the impact position they're trying to attain. So a lot of slow rehearsals, a lot of pitch shots can be good with this, a lot of wedge shots where you're moving through different length of swings in the backswing. But for today, we're going to focus purely just on the takeaway when hitting full shots. So I set up here now, I've been through that routine a good amount there, making sure I'm keeping that space between my eyes and the ball as I move back there. Let's hit one and see how I do here, making sure I'm just square with the camera as always. And a pretty good one there, felt nice. So I definitely had a good sense there of maintaining my space between my eyes and the ball. That was a key focus for me there. And often a good one as well, if you're working on just a specific move or position or place in the swing, I should say hands hip high, can be very helpful to take a pause there, then go and then hit. So different training options there to help as well. But give some of those a go, and if you find some joy and improvement through some of the stuff here today, please do comment. I'd love to hear about it.